Merry Christmas to everyone celebrating and a warm welcome to you on the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. The National Assembly has adjourned for the Christmas and New Year holiday and will resume on January 26, 2021. Before the adjournment, both chambers of the National Assembly passed the 2021 budget. The budget size is 13.588 trillion naira, an increase of 505 billion naira proposed by the executive. Both chambers are asking President Buhari to send a supplementary budget in 2021 because of the increase in oil price in the international market, which is hovering between $47 to $50 per barrel. It's the last day of legislative sitting for 2020, and both houses of the National Assembly have one major agenda before them: to pass the 2021 appropriation bill. President Buhari had submitted a 13.082 trillion naira budget to a joint session of the National Assembly on October 8, 2020. The National Assembly has jacked up the figure by 505 billion to 13.588 trillion naira.
The need to enhance the structure of the budget, to allow for the reflation of the economy in order to accelerate the process of taking out the economy from its current state of recession.
It retains the key assumptions proposed by the executive in the 2021 to 2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework (MTEF) and Fiscal Policy Paper (FSP). The benchmark price of crude was maintained at $40 per barrel, crude oil production 1.86 million barrels per day, exchange rate of 379 naira to $1, and a GDP growth rate of 3.00%. Although the National Assembly is retaining the proposed $40 benchmark price of crude, it observes that the increase in oil price in the international market gives the country the opportunity to earn extra funds.
A major recommendation in the view of increasing the total global oil price, which is above the benchmark of $40, the executive may consider the submission of supplementary appropriation bill in the event of seeming sustainable improvement of the oil price. This will help quicken the exit of the economy from the current state of recession.
I believe that at one point in the first quarter of next year, there should be a supplementary budget as early as possible, probably by January when we return, to ensure that we capture the vaccine needs, the COVID-19 vaccine needs of all Nigerians.
While the National Assembly is looking towards a supplementary budget from the President to fund some key sectors, some crucial sectoral appropriations include Ministry of Defense, which gets the largest appropriation, 838.559 billion, Ministry of Interior, 227.015 billion, Office of a National Security Advisor, 134.095 billion, Ministry of Education, 545.237 billion, Ministry of Health, 380.208 billion, and Ministry of Power, 6.069 billion naira. The Senate is to get the sum of 33.267 billion, while the House of Representatives will get 51.994 billion naira. But with a budget deficit of more than 5 trillion naira and an inflation rate of 14.89%, the highest recorded in 34 months since January 2018, there are indeed tough days ahead for the country. Some civil society organizations and individuals are opposing the proposal in the National Assembly for a review of the provision in the Electoral Act, which pegged the eligibility of a voter at 18 years. The proposal, which the Joint National Assembly Committee on INEC has forwarded to the Technical Committee on Electoral Reform, recommends that INEC should consider any married girl who is not up to 18 years as eligible to vote. However, several non-governmental organizations and individuals are condemning this proposal, warning that it will encourage underage marriage in the country. We interviewed the chairman, Senate Committee on INEC, Senator Kabiru Gaya, to find out more about this proposal. But first, we'll show you the interview with the Executive Director, Make a Difference Initiative, Mr. Lemi Ugebe, to get his views on the controversial proposal for the amendment of the Electoral Act.
I was shocked that in the 21st century, our National Assembly will be seeking to even deliberate over a proposal that has the tendency to encourage pedophilia and entrench the practice that is called girl-child marriage. Because again, if you look at our laws clearly and look at how badly the girl child, particularly in the North, has been given a short end of the stick, where under the law that regulates activities in the North, for instance, the Penal Code, it says that if a girl is 14 or even less than 14, that means even if she is 9, so long as she has started manifesting some signs of puberty, then it is lawful to take her into a marital relationship and exploit her sexually. Now, the implication of that is what we have seen that is rampant in the North, which is the girl child eventually taken between 9 and 14 into marriage, gets into a sexual relationship, gets pregnant, contracts VVF, vesical vaginal fistula, and she's eventually abandoned by that husband, pedophilic husband of hers, and sent packing, and the husband goes looking for another vulnerable, innocent, poor girl to take in. So while we have spent a lot of energy and resources advocating and enlightening the people in the North, particularly in the country generally, to say we must put an end to the girl-child marriage. In those days, there's the euphemism, they call it early marriage. But there's a big difference between early marriage and girl-child marriage. Early marriage means you've graduated, you are 18 and above, and you got married. That's early marriage. But under 18, because our Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, contemplates that everyone under the age of 18 is a child, including the girl. We cannot, by any means of the imagination, contemplate or reconcile with the fact that the Joint Committee of the National Assembly would even be talking about a proposal that seeks to throw spanners into the work we've been doing so far. And that is putting the girl child in harm's way by contemplating. You see, there's what is called the repugnancy test when you talk about law policy in human endeavors. Repugnancy test is used to subject policies, legal framework, proposals to a test in order to see if it is obnoxious, it is thrown away. Now, if you subject the proposal that a girl under 18 becomes a woman by that proposal, and unfortunately, the Joint Committee seemed to have tried to apply logic in the wrong way or Constitution in the wrong way by citing Section 29(4) of the Constitution, which actually says a woman who has been married is to be deemed of full age. It does not say a girl who has been married. The same Constitution says you are a child under 18. So if we are to apply the canon of interpretation, even that provision of Section 29(4) goes further to even protect the girl child, to say she can only be a woman when she's 18 and above. So we need to quickly, and that's why I jumped at that story when it broke on the social media. One of the first things I did beyond mere comments on social media was to immediately take out a statement on behalf of my organizations, because we found that most activists will just do some ordinary comments on Facebook and it ends. Whereas if you really want to check such misapplication of the law or a policy that is wrong, you need to cause the media to actually see how dangerous it is, help them to look at it critically, and call those who are responsible for it to order. Because in truth, it is ridiculous that in the 21st century, instead of us to empower our girl child by giving her the opportunity to become the best version of her, by giving her the chance to go to school, by giving her the chance to take the right decision after she has had the benefit of education. Be mindful that even to go to the university, our law says you have to be 16 years old. So if to go to university and acquire education, you have to be 16 years old, why would we now be talking about marrying girls off at 14 and less than that?
So we spoke to the chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, and he said that these are proposals from the public, which they have to, as a committee, they have to send it to the technical committee, every one of them. They are not in the position to choose which, proposals will go to the technical committee or not. And that the process, even that process, much as yes, they have to send it, is not something that may likely see the day, because if you are sending that kind of proposal, any proposal that seeks that kind of amendment to the Electoral Act will need an amendment of the Constitution, which clearly states that, a child, anybody below the age of 18 is deemed as a child, and anybody below the age of 18 cannot vote in the country. So it has to be subjected to constitutional amendment. Yeah. So what do you think about this comment from the chairman of the committee?
Okay, well, why conceding is right to do what I'll call damage control? Because I have seen videos and commentaries by his counterpart in the House of Representatives, Aisha Duku, and she was emphatic in those videos as saying that those are decisions of the Joint Committee. She was emphatic. I can show you various publications in that regard, where she was so emphatic, and she was even going back to the 8th Senate, had even gone through the process, and they arrived at this. We cannot just throw it away. Everything done in the 8th Senate, in the 8th National Assembly, is dead and buried. So you work on it properly. But it's good we're having this conversation that gives them the opportunity to even recant and perhaps change their original position. But let's be clear on this. Let's really be clear on this. In the 21st century, how can we even as a people, knowing how obnoxious the practice is? I personally, with my organization, I've already spoken with our lawyers before now that even the penal code, which even puts the girl child in harm's way, that in January we are filing a process in court to stop it, to make sure that those provisions are struck down, because they are in conflict with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. And the position of the law is clear. To the extent of the inconsistency of another statute against the Constitution, to the extent of its inconsistency, it is null and void. So, but what amazes me is that even the lawmakers, both at the federal and state level, see that this particular provision that that endangers the girl child has been used to run and damage the girl child, particularly in the not based on the penal code. And nobody has spoken up till now. And we are saying that if by any means, again, that they end up finding a way to pass it and claim that it is the people who make the representation and the proposal for that any girl under 18 who is married to be given the license, one will go to court again and shoot it down, because again, the Constitution of the Federal Republic says that there shall be no discrimination against any gender. So if you allow the girl to have the opportunity to vote because she's been married and she's less than 18, then you are discriminating against the boy who is also less than 18.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. Now let's go to the interview with the Chairman, Senate Committee on INEC, to discuss the proposed amendment in the Electoral Act.
First of all, I appreciate how we conducted the public hearing. We received a lot of memorandum from people all over Nigeria, those who have interest in the amendment in the Electoral Act. and different views came across. Issue of diaspora voting, issue of women who are married, even if they are not 18, they could be able to vote. These are all views sent out through to us either by email or by public memorandum, and many other views were also sorted out. The issue of electronic voting, electronic transfer, and so on. But this specific one that you asked me, the issue of whether if a lady is married, she should be deemed to vote even if she's not 18, but that's not part of the. It's a proposal, but we have not agreed with that in the committee. The Constitution is very clear on this matter. The Constitution clearly says that for you to be eligible to vote, you must be 18 and above. So the issue of whether a woman is married or not married, or she is married and she's qualified to do that, it all depends on amending the Constitution. And we have not brought a proposal to amend the Constitution on that aspect. The Electoral Act doesn't have powers to do anything beyond what is in the Constitution. So what's in the Constitution is supreme than the Electoral Act. So if ladies are to vote, or any person is to vote, should be above 18 or 18 and above. And when you amend the Constitution, the procedures are long. First of all, the two houses in the National Assembly must agree, and if there is any disagreement, there will be conference. And even if they agree after the conference, we will now send it to all 36 states of the Federation. All the state assemblies must also agree. And if we have less than two sides, it means the bill has failed. So therefore, there is nothing for us to worry about and make noise out of nothing, honestly speaking. Well, I don't know whether the ethical committee will agree on that proposal or not, but we try to bring all the memorandums or memos brought in by Nigerians to be passed to the ethical committee to sift. Take the ones that are okay to be included in the electoral amendment, and those that they felt they should not include it, then they can remove it. And for areas where we have conflict with the Constitution, it will be difficult to include it into the Electoral Act, because we want this Electoral Act to be signed by the end of the first quarter of this year. And you cannot amend the Constitution in 6 months. So that means we do not want to keep hanging the Electoral Act because of 1 or 2 amendments. First of all, let us handle what we have at hand. The alterations we have are over 85 in over 85 places, and therefore even that is enough. We are trying to do the best we can to perfect the Electoral Act, which is difficult to perfect it, but you will do the best we can to make so that we can have free, fair, and credible elections. So that's one of the reasons.
Now, during the public hearing, the former Deputy Senate President did make in his submission, talked about that, this phase of Electoral Act, the amendment of the Electoral Act, to go further in ensuring that the whole process of the elections are done via using electronic system of voting in all the stages. Is it, as a politician who has contested for elections beyond being the chairman of the committee, what do you make of this? What I call it, a proposal by the Deputy Senate President? Do you think it's feasible?
Well, first of all, you see, we are learning day by day. Remember the issue of voting, how it started. People go queue up, line up, choose a party, drop it in the box, and count it. And during my elections, when I was elected as a governor, the election was different. It was people were counting the people. I mean, they were counting people who have lined up in a queue, and then that was open ballot system, and also that one worked. So we are learning day by day. And then last few years, we introduced card reader, which was a lot of Nigerians were against it, that there will be cheating, there will be this. But the card reader helps, because card reader stabilize the issue of over-rigging or over-voting, and whereby total number of those people who are registered on the card reader, a lot of people that have voted, who voted during elections, don't go beyond the number of those who are registered on card reader. When the number is higher than the registered voter, that election is deemed to be cancelled or repeated again. So you find that people were opposed to that. Now we are now introducing electronic voting, which may be much easier, and it's going to be designed based on Nigerian mode, because the INEC people will also bring what they needed for the designer or the person the bendo that's doing the job should go along with what the INEC needed. Even the card reader that was produced for Nigeria was configured based on the needs of the Electoral Commission, and that Electoral Commission also used its needs to those who are going to computerize the machine for voting, whereby it will be easier for us to do the voting, that even those old people who are not educated can be shown the way to vote. And that will also help us to, based on that, to now have to look at those number of political parties that are going to vote, are registered. Because, for example, we have 92 before, and they have registered a lot of the parties, and now we have only 18. And maybe that 18, if we look at the issue of the Edo and Ondo election, we must also come down to less than 18 registered parties. And we hope with that number, we can be able to go for elections, and then we can be able to also make the elections much easier using electronic voting system.
During an interactive session between the Joint Committee on INEC and the INEC chairman, he appealed for funding for funds for INEC for the conduct of the 2023 elections be released on time to allow the commission to prepare well ahead of time for the 2023 election. In what way will the National Assembly come in to make sure that this is a possibility?
Based on our comments during the public hearing, I think I mentioned that clearly. After the acting chairman has spoken, we said that the federal government should be able to provide funds for the 23 election by 2021. At least 50% of those funding should be provided so that they can now prepare these electronic voting machines, because it takes time to produce those machines. You know, in those years, and they don't get their money until about a few weeks or a few months to the election. And that one, it will be difficult to now order for electronic voting machines and get it in a few months. Sometimes it takes much, much longer time. They will do a proposal, they will make a demo, the demo will be looked at, and then if there are questions, they will go back until the INEC is satisfied with the quality and the capacity of the voting machine. So definitely, INEC should be given money by early next year, within this 2020. It means doing a supplementary budget in the National Assembly. We will do that in relation to, we are also going to do supplementary budget based on the immunization of based on COVID-19, that will be drugs to be purchased, or the immunization injections will be purchased. So definitely we can combine that into the supplementary budget, both for those items, both on the health matter and then on the election matter. So I think there is a need for that. It will help us greatly to make election of 2023 will be free, fair, and more credible than before. You find out what happened in Edo and Ondo. We have used part of those electronic transfer system, electronic issue, and you find that it was much more peaceful than the rest ones we had. So therefore, the by-elections too, and also when we vote general election, we may use this electronic voting for Anambra elections and other subsequent elections before the 2023 election, because there will be so many other by-elections before then.
Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Compliments of the season, and hope to see you next week.